Welcome back to the Scott May Show. This podcast is brought to you by Element Electrolytes. They're used by Navy SEALs, MMA fighters, endurance athletes, and bodybuilders alike. I use 2 Element packets a day. They come in lots of awesome flavors. My favorites are chocolate and watermelon. I also really like the lemonade and lemon lime citrus flavor. It goes really well in your water, in your intra-workout. Proper hydration and electrolytes being a big part of that are essential to both your mental and physical performance and overall health. And I really like mixing the chocolate in with my cream of rice, gives it a really nice flavor. Or I put the watermelon in my intra-workout. It tastes really good and disguises the awful flavor of essential aminos. So go check them out. You can get a special offer and help support the show by going to drinklmnt.com/scottmize to get a free sample pack with your order. And that's a sample pack of all their most popular flavors. Element electrolytes also come with a money back guarantee. So if you don't like it, no questions asked, you get your money back. So this is a great offer for anyone interested in trying all the flavors, or you want to introduce a friend to Element. Go check them out at drinklmnt.com/scottmize. Thanks, and welcome to the show. This podcast is brought to you by BioLongevity Labs for all your peptide and bioregulator needs, including retatrutide, aka GLP-3, MOTS-C, 5-amino-1-MQ, BPC-157 and TB500 for tissue and joint recovery and healing, as well as digestion, and much, much more. Head to biolongevitylabs.com and use code SCOTTM, that's Scott M, all one word, to save and support the show. Thank you. Hey, Charly May is a physique coach through Team Forged with Georgia Daniels, a master's student in exercise physiology, an NPC figure competitor, and overall winner. She won the overall at her first show, the NPC Western Michigan Bodybuilding Championships, and holds a degree in Kinesiology, I can never say that word, as well as professional training certifications such as CSCS and NASM-CPT. Charly has published research in human performance and cardiovascular health and has been hired by our university to teach undergraduate physical activity and wellness courses. Welcome to the show, Charly.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me, Scott. We've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to just start, what's your background in sports? How did you get started in physical activity?
Yeah, for sure. It's such a long and windy road. I mean, I actually did USA gymnastics from about like 6 to 16.
Wow.
And yeah, that was all encompassing. Definitely very intense. And then kind of it was right around COVID, I definitely just kind of started losing the heat for it. And I had a couple coaches that kind of made me see things in a different light and not a good way. And so then kind of stepped away from like the USA highly competitive realm, and I transitioned into just like high school gymnastics just to kind of keep, because I had felt like, I'd put so much time into it. I wasn't ready to like fully walk away from it,
Mm,
but I knew I was kind of transitioning out of it. And kind of right around COVID, that was when I started getting super into lifting.
mm.
And so I literally go like from gymnastics practice to the gym. And I was just doing kind of like whatever workouts I could find online, very like Gymshark-esque.
Was it
Kept that up
hard
for
to
a bit.
step down from super competitive gymnastics to high school gymnastics?
For sure. And I mean, I pretty much walked onto that team not knowing anybody, became the captain immediately just because I had such experience under my belt. And so that was definitely when kind of my wheels started turning for coaching, because I also just started randomly coaching like rec gymnastics to
Cool.
to children at that same time, just because I kind of always felt myself fall into that leadership position very naturally. And so that was for sure kind of where I started to cultivate the love for coaching. Um, and yeah, it was fun. I kind of just stuck with it just because my family was like so invested in me doing gymnastics at that point in time too. And so I think a bit of why I stayed with it as long as I did was like fear of disappointing them, and just, you put so much time into things. It is hard to walk away.
Yeah.
Uh, But slowly my love for lifting for sure took over, and that made it a lot easier to kind of step away in good spirits with it. And then at that point, I like graduated high school, had was still like lifting every single day, had really no idea what I was doing nutritionally, but I knew I loved exercise science. Like I knew I wanted to pursue it in college. So then got to college, I knew I was going to major in kinesiology, and then had my freshman year, I kind of started like dabbling in like powerlifting a little bit. I made a ton of friends who were powerlifters. So then that was kind of how my training was focused. I started blowing up. I was putting on a ton of muscle very quickly. And then the summer after my freshman year, I knew I really wanted to lock in, and I had heard Dom's name thrown around quite a bit. I also worked at like the Powerhouse West Bloomfield in Michigan throughout high school. So I
Oh,
like
cool.
knew his name. I knew kind of his reputation, how he went about with clients. And so I knew he was going to be my first coach. Like I was like, I don't need to meet with him. I'm ready to kind of invest in myself and see where this takes me. So then signed up with Dom immediately after my like freshman year of college and has pretty much been all in. I mean, I am a very type A, like structured, disciplined person. And so when he was like, okay, here's this plan, it was like routine nature for me to just dial in completely. And so like those first 3 months I made in insane like body composition transformation. And I remember being like a month in and I was like, I love this. Like I'm ready. I'm ready to compete. I'm ready to go all in. And he was like, oh, like let's slow your roll. Let's take our time with this. Like you're young, you have a great shape, like you have a lot of potential to do really well, but
Yeah.
that's not worth it. And I was like, okay, heard. Like I'm completely for it. And so pretty much just spent the rest of college being like fully dialed into like my own bodybuilding endeavors. And then
Cool.
I in undergrad got super into research and like ex phys teaching positions. And so I taught a
Cool.
couple classes to undergrads and started working in a research lab there. And at the same time, kind of started dabbling in strength and conditioning. I wasn't quite sure at the time, like what I wanted to do with my life. I felt like I went from being like, oh yeah, I'll go for athletic training, I'll go for PT, OT. I kind of like dabbled in everything for a little bit and just wasn't really sound on anything, but I kind of figured like if I feel called to open it, I'm gonna open every door I feel called to kind of thing. And so dabbled a little bit in every realm. And then my like beginning of my junior year, I started a like strength and conditioning internship, kind of working with the Olympic sports teams at Michigan State.
Cool.
And I loved that. And it was interesting because the research I was doing was primarily on the menstrual cycle and kind of looking at how that altered performance and different like nutrition and like training interventions that can promote performance and coordination with the menstrual cycle. And so it was super cool being able to like actually see those effects in real time
Mm.
working with athletes. And so I continued to kind of intern for MSG, like strength and conditioning, until I graduated, got my CSCS between those times. But I also knew that strength and conditioning wasn't kind of my end all be all, just because I know what it takes to be a like D1 strength coach and like the time and effort that you have to put in. The pay is not the best. And like with that career, especially like you have to love it. You have
Yeah.
to breathe it to kind of make a career out of it. And just kind of knowing like what I want long term down the road and my family and all those things, I kind of was like, like I don't really see myself wanting to do that forever. And so, but I also knew I wanted to get my master's in ex phys at the time too. I had started kind of online coaching people, but it was primarily just for free. And like I wanted to like, see if I was any good at it and if I liked it and whatnot. And so kind of started like building a little roster as well. I knew I wanted to pursue a master's, but and like get a graduate assistantship, whether it was for teaching or research or coaching, just like I could get it paid for and continue to like gain that real time experience. Um, so I kind of was like, okay, I'll take whatever GA position I can get, whether it's teaching, research, coaching. Ended up getting one for teaching and research. So hence where I'm at, what I'm doing now. And then yeah, that was kind of it. I had just continued to build my online roster up until that point, and then back in, it was like September or so, Georgia had reached out to me because at the time she was getting mentored by Mike White.
Oh, great.
And yeah, yeah, and I went to undergrad with Paul's little brother. It was like totally one of those
Oh,
circumstances where it's like you, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I went
I
to
know all of them.
Mike.
Mike and Paul are like two of my best friends.
Yeah, yeah, they're so awesome.
Yeah.
They're so awesome. But so I knew Michael, and then back in undergrad, he was like, "Oh, that's crazy. Like my brother actually gets coached by Dom too. I'll have to introduce you guys."
Yeah.
And then he introduced us. We became great friends. I
Cool.
met Mike through Fine, and then when Georgia was looking to bring someone onto her team, Mike was like, "Hold on, I know the most perfect
Oh,
person for
awesome.
you." And yeah, it was great, and we connected, and it's been growing, growing, growing ever since.
That's awesome. That's so cool. It's
Mhm.
funny, Mike, you talked about the strength and conditioning coach. Mike kind
Mhm.
of lived that life for a few years. And he told me some of the days it sounded like very rough, like waking up at 3:30, he would just like
Oh,
pound
sure.
coffee, get into the office, train athletes, like just just tough long days.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and he actually had a graduate assistantship as a strength and conditioning coach,
Oh, okay.
and so even that, like, my graduate assistantship position is not as demanding as it
Yeah.
would have been if I did take on, like, a coaching
Yeah.
position and stuff, and even, like, when I was just interning as strength and conditioning, I was getting to the weight room some of those days at, like, 4:35
Yeah.
mo every day, and it's very demanding for
Yeah.
sure,
It's a
but
little
it
bit
was funny
different
though.
when you're waking up that early, like, for yourself, like, to go work
Mhm.
out so you can get it in before work, but, like, I can imagine getting up that early to go train people is, like, a whole different beast.
Because then it's like, okay, I gotta wake up even earlier now just to make sure I have the actual brain power to coach,
Yeah.
like, you can't just kinda show up on fumes for
Some
that
coaches
one,
do.
so
I had
Mhm.
I was I was a rower in college, and we had some strength and conditioning
Yes.
coaches who we'd show
Mhm.
up to the weight room at, like, 7 AM, and they'd show up just, like, 90% asleep.
Mhm.
Like,
I
not
mean, they're probably there the night before too, up until, like, 7, 8,
yeah.
because it is, it's go, go, go. That was funny, I did actually work with the women's rowing team at Michigan State
Oh,
during my
cool.
time, yeah, in strength and conditioning, that's sweet. Mhm.
Yeah, it's cool because for women's rowing, they can, there's a lot of scholarships because
Mhm.
of, Title IX.
Yeah.
So, like, to balance out the spending on men's sports, they can
Mhm.
there's a lot of funding for and one of the sports that gets a lot for women
Mhm.
is rowing. So, yeah, some of the scholarships, like, my friends in high school were getting offered, like, full rides at, like, these great
Yeah.
schools, it was crazy. But for men, it doesn't really exist. Um,
Mhm.
and, like, for rowing for men, it's a little bit different because you're more so using the sport to get you into a better school than you otherwise would have gotten into, not really like for financial reasons. So,
Mhm.
like, a lot of not so bright kids can get into Ivy League schools through rowing, like me. um, and
Where did you work with your dad?
that's the plan. I went to Penn in Philly.
Oh, sweet, sweet, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I rode on the Schuylkill. Um, and yeah, that was like 8 years of my life. Do you feel like gymnastics helps you in the gym with, like, body awareness and, uh
Oh, huge, and I feel like too, gymnastics is what gave me, like, the foundation of muscle mass I have now,
mm,
and, like, even just the way something I take a lot of pride in is I always get compliments on the way that I train and, like, the mobility I have and,
yeah,
like, the intensity I can push at, and I attribute all of that to
that's
gymnastics.
cool. Yeah,
Just having,
gymnasts are
like
jacked.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. It was interesting, I was listening to, a podcast with Eugene Teo.
Mhm.
He's, like, a guy who worked with John Meadows, and he's, like, a really interesting kind of all-around strength
Yeah.
conditioning, bodybuilding background, and he's like one thing he likes to do is look at the athletes from different sports who, like,
Mhm.
always have a well-developed body part
Yeah.
regardless of, like, what they do, to, like, take cues for how you might be able to think about training it.
Mhm.
And he was talking about, like, different aspects of gymnasts versus climbers and different things, and like who has the most well developed this from a different sport. And so I thought that was really interesting.
For sure. And even just from my own perspective, like working in so many different environments, watching different athletes, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it was gymnastics, it gave me such like a keen awareness for being able to watch someone and be able to identify exactly like, okay, this is weak, let's do this instead of this. And it's so neat now.
Yeah.
Just kind of having that all awareness of it.
Yeah, talk a little bit about coaching. Like, what do you enjoy about it? How
Mhm.
has it evolved for you, and what do you get out of it?
Yeah, for sure. And so with Forge is so awesome just because it is an all women's team. And of course, like a huge aspect of coaching is just being there, giving them this level of support that they've never experienced before. And I think that I something that I bring to the table that's different from other coaches is I really value like mindfulness and mental health
Mm,
and like taking care of your brain so then it can kind of transcend into your body, you know? And so being able to just support these women and like provide them with the tools that to advance their quality of life, advance their health, advance their body composition is so rewarding to me just because, like some of the when you get enough experienced, all of the necessary tasks, like, to reach your goal become very, like, second nature to you, you know? And so it's like all the things that seem very second nature to me have the potential to absolutely transform someone else's life
mm,
if they are applied differently. And so I get so much fulfillment just by equipping them with the tools, like, to change their behavior, to get the results they wanna get. And so it fills my cup kind of filling theirs, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, that's awesome. I'm honestly envious that um, that I didn't get into it at your age. Like I really only got into. I had never stepped foot in a gym as opposed to you until I
Mhm,
was like 28. Um, like
mhm,
even in the rowing days, like there was
yeah,
this myth of being muscle bound, and like lifting will weigh you down in the boat.
yeah,
And so I didn't even know that like bodybuilding existed. I had never done a bench press until I was in my late 20s, like anything. But I think I absolutely love like in a work environment, mentorship
mhm,
and coaching people and helping people and managing people, trying to help them grow their careers. And I think I would have gotten a lot more out of coaching too, full time if I had
mhm,
pursued it. I help a few people, and it is
mhm,
very rewarding, but I think it would have been really cool to pursue as a career.
for sure, and it was definitely because this was not like, online coaching was always something that I never thought I could make a career out of.
Mm,
Like, I guess I've my whole life, I've always been very academically oriented and, like, goal oriented, and so
yeah,
even in, like, elementary school, I was like, "I gotta get the top grades," like,
yeah,
in high school, I was, like, top of my class, I and so then when I got super into teaching and research, I definitely envisioned myself making a life out of it,
yeah,
and my plan, like, prior to kinda joining Forge was I was always like, I wanna pursue a PhD, and I was like, I love teaching, I love researching, um and then just because I never thought I could actually I always thought online coaching kinda had to be a side gig. I just kinda thought it was, like, too far out of the cards, and, like, kinda just pursuing academia would have been a lot more safer of a bet, I guess you could say, just
mm,
because I had the receipts of, like, being successful in school, and, like, I knew I was, like, a high achiever in research and teaching and stuff, and so then when the opportunity to join Forge kind of fell in my lap. I definitely didn't anticipate that it would like become my entire life. And like I am so, so happy it did because I never knew it could feel this rewarding, you know? And so it was crazy how like you can have it seem like you have your entire life planned out and then at
yeah,
like snap of fingers things can kind of shift gears and switch into place. So it's definitely something I was not expecting, but I'm very, very thankful for it.
yeah.
Never thought.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, the academic path can be like so linear, And so, especially for like an achievement oriented person, like
Mhm.
you get grades, like there's a clear, very clear
Yes.
objective, like,
Mhm.
and you can really track your progress. And so it can definitely become like addicting. I definitely remember that. And I almost went to, I think we messaged about it. I almost went to get
Mhm.
my PhD and then tried to publish research my senior year and quickly learned that that was not the life for me. But yeah, it's funny actually, like 2 or 3 years after graduating, I started getting into exercise studies
Mhm.
because I'm such a nerd. And I was like reading all this research from James Steele. He's this researcher over in the UK,
Mhm.
and James Fisher. They do a
Mhm.
lot of really interesting resistance training research. And I just was like nerding out on it. I was like, this is so cool. I'm like reading these studies and hearing about the
Yeah.
different methods
Mhm.
and like, oh, what if I went back and got my exercise PhD? But I think I would have had to do like undergrad all over again because I had, like a business degree. So
Yeah.
but it is definitely I can see the appeal.
Yeah, and it is so neat though how kind of everything that comes with research and teaching translates into coaching. And
Mhm.
that is also like one of my favorite things about it is just being able to be an educator for these women as well. And like not only just kind of giving them the support, the leadership, like the direction with fitness and nutrition and training, but also being able to kind of harness them with like certain pieces of knowledge to advance their
Yeah.
call with them. And even too, just being able to, like, kinda treat every client like a case study
Mm.
almost, and, like, even, like, blood work, like, being able to, like, connect the dots and, like, apply all of my physiology knowledge in that way,
Yeah,
I get so much reward from,
that's so
too.
cool. Yeah, Dom
Just like
has a interesting research background too, and the thing um I noticed is like one of his biggest strengths is like analysis, like breaking problems down, and then
Mhm,
synthesis, like dialing back up and summarizing like the insights. And it was
mhm,
really evident, like every check-in I described to people,
mhm,
he's like a sniper. Like you'll send him a lot of information and you might
mhm.
even ask questions and he'll just like laser in on like the one thing that matters and be like, this is what we're focusing on.
Exactly, and I definitely find myself falling into that, like, paralysis by analysis often, like, there's a lot of times with certain clients where I'm like, "Okay, I gotta take a step back, like, I'm overthinking this, I'm in the weeds too much," and so,
Yeah.
I definitely am still kind of learning my ropes with coaching for sure, but I actually did invest in Dom's Blueprint
Oh,
course,
awesome.
and was hands down one of the best investments I've ever made. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, so many incredible resources in there.
Yeah. That's what everyone says. That's awesome. So talk about your first prep experience. Like what made you ultimately decide to pull the trigger and then maybe just tell the long version of the story, how it went?
Yeah, for sure. So once Dom was kind of like, okay, let's take our time, I was fully trusting of him. And so I quite literally don't think I asked for 3 years, like, hey, what's the update? Like, can we do the show? Can we like I was just kind of trusting the process and we throughout that time went through multiple deficits and growth phases and all of that. And it was all very straightforward to me. Like, I was someone who you give me a plan, I will follow it, and I will not question it whatsoever, and so, I always kinda knew when he was like, "Okay, the time is right, let's do it now." I would kinda be able to, like, flip the switch and go all in, no question about it. Like, it was never I never had any hesitancies of like, "Oh, will I be able to do this?" Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I kinda knew wholeheartedly, like, I'm gonna do this no matter what it takes out of me. And then back in it was probably in, like, December, January of last year, he kinda threw around, like, "What do you think about doing a show in the fall of
Oh,
'25?" And I was like, I mean, I would be prepping for my first semester of grad school and also prepping during my move to a brand new state, but I like, honestly, let's do it. Because I also was like, I'm gonna be moving to a new state, like starting something brand new. I want to have something that I can just put all my attention, my effort into, and so I kind of figured it would, of course, it would be pretty tricky, like going through the move and all of that stuff. But I was moving state because I moved from Michigan to Indiana, which isn't too far. It's like 5 hours.
Okay.
Kind of, I was probably like 15 or anywhere between 12 to 15 weeks out. I moved like kind of at the end of July. The show was mid-November. And so when I moved, had a good like month under my belt of being in prep. And it was completely smooth, it was fine. And then I honestly it was very pretty much exactly how I expected it. It definitely the prep experience will strip you raw, and it requires every single ounce of effort, of intention, of preparation you have, but it was the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and just have like, showing up every single day, even when you don't want to, like, when you feel that down bad, it is so empowering, and I think that that was kind of throughout the prep, getting those sprinkles of, like, empowerment, encouragement, like, seeing the lines, like, seeing all the progress I was making just kinda built so much momentum throughout it that there was really no, like, any day throughout the prep, there was no question of like, "Oh my gosh, am I gonna do it this day?" Like, I executed it, hit steps every single day, like, did every single session, did not miss a meal, did not weigh over a gram of anything, like, uh and so that was why too, like, it went so awesome, and I honestly, like, this was the looking back on it, like, this is the best I've ever felt, like, in my life, like, I think mentally, I was in a phenomenal place. Like I had a really good grasp, like on the stress, and like there was nothing like overarching in my life that was taking away any of my energy whatsoever. And so
Awesome.
the whole prep was super, super smooth. Like my body responded great. And I feel like we didn't have to put like I don't think my cardio protocol changed the entire prep,
Wow.
if that kind of says anything. And so we didn't have to we definitely pushed. There was lots of dig days and
Yeah.
lots of days where I felt awful, respectfully,
Okay.
but yeah, but I survived and, like, body responded well. The show day was to this day probably one of the best days of my life. Like,
Yeah.
I am so eager and so excited to do it again, but
Yeah.
definitely gonna just take my time. I do for sure wanna wait until I graduate to do another show
Oh,
because prepping first semester of grad school was not my best idea, but I did great, and, like, I just got a 4.0. I did
nice.
showed up, research, teaching, full throttle, so I was happy, very, very pleased with myself and the way I handled it, especially as someone who, like, puts so much pressure on themselves to meet this
Yeah.
standard, so
Yeah,
it was
that's aw
good.
I mean, you should be very proud. That's
Thank
insane.
you.
It
Mhm.
feels really good when you're, like, everything's firing and you're able to balance it all. Like, that's basically flow, right? That's, like, being
Mhm.
challenged the perfect amount and being able to accomplish it, but still feeling stretched. It's hard
Exactly.
for people to get that, especially in multiple aspects of life at once.
Mhm.
Um,
And it was funny too because I kinda leading up to that point, I never, like, put all my marbles, like, into bodybuilding in the sense of
mm,
I knew that I wanted to experience the first show before I was like, "Okay, I am committed for the next, like, 8 years.
yeah,
Like, I am
right.
to make this my end all be all pursue, like, Olympia kind of thing."
Yeah,
Um, and so I was very patient with it and kinda, like, open-minded, and I was like, "If I go through this prep, I go through this competition, and I hate it, like, I have to kinda be prepared to, like, switch gears and, like, try something new." But
yeah,
I also knew, I was like, "No, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna love it."
yeah.
And that
That's
that was, like, exactly what happened, so it was sweet.
did, was there anything you found surprising about it? Like, you didn't expect either in how
Mm,
you felt or, um, like,
like,
anything?
through based on the prep experience, I would say I because we had done quite a few, like, cuts or, like, fat loss
Yeah, I was
phases
gonna ask.
before to where I probably got down to, like, a 9, like, 10-week outlook, like,
Okay.
I would, like, significantly lean, and so I knew what was gonna be required, but I definitely felt like, right at the tail end of prep, like, I was feeling rough, like,
Mm.
no amount of food on a refeed day could have made me feel energy, could have made me feel warm, like, it was I was constantly tired, and
Yeah.
definitely, I will say the learning acquisition side of things, that surprised me a lot, just how much more challenging it is to learn new
Mm.
information are severely dieting. Just
Yeah.
because I had when I was previously, like, cutting or fat loss phases in school, like, there was some at some points in time where I was, "Okay, this is challenging, I'm having to put a lot more time into learning things that typically I would learn fairly quickly, fairly
Yeah.
easy." Um, and also, I mean, like, the classes I was taking first semester of grad school were dramatically more challenging than undergrad, but
Mm.
still, like, pretty much every weekend, I was spending, like, hours just doing schoolwork, learning the information, like, to set myself up well for classes, and it would definitely kind of pained me a little bit, just how much harder it was
Yeah.
to learn, 'cause I'm typically a pretty quick learner, and, like, I like to take pride in that, like, it doesn't require too much, like, I just understand things easily. And so that was challenging for sure, that kinda threw a wrench in things, and I would say on the show day too, I am a relatively relaxed person, and it kinda takes a lot for me to get super anxious, and I even, like, remember the night before the show, I, like, took this video on my phone and, like, sent it to my friends. I was like, "I am so excited, like, this is gonna be awesome, like, I don't even care what happens because I made it this far, and, like, this is an accomplishment. I look awesome right now, and, like, no one can take that from me." I really didn't care kinda what the end result of it was. But then I still woke up that morning and I was, like, profusely shaking, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, what?" Like, I kinda started to panic because
Yeah.
usually I don't feel that degree of, like, anxiety.
Wow.
I doubt like, it's just adrenaline, like, it's
Yeah.
okay, but that kind of definitely surprised me, and even when I, like, went out there first time ever for prejudging, like, I was so shaky, and, like, I look back on it and I'm like, "No, like, how could I fix that?" But objectively, it was the first show, like,
Yeah.
be a lot more prepared for it next time.
That's also like the athlete from decades of being, this high level gymnast waking back up and being like, let's go.
Yes. Oh my god, it's so hard too, like, going into the show to really, like, envision what it was like for gymnastics, like, because gymnastics is you go out there, you're completely alone, you're doing your routine. I was thinking more so like a floor routine, like, like, you go out there, it's only you, all eyes on you for, like, 2 to 3 minutes, and you just kinda go. And so, back when I was competing in gymnastics, I would do a lot of imagery, and, like, I would just sit there and, like, close my eyes and, like, imagine myself going out there, executing phenomenally, and so that was kinda something I did in the weeks leading up to the competition, was, like, I would literally just close my eyes and just, like, envision it, and, like, envision how it would be and what like, the result of it and whatever, and I loved that I did that because I feel like it set me up really well to kinda 'cause, you always hear the horror stories of people walking out on stage first time, the lights blind you, and you are just, like, complete blackout.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "I can't let that happen, blah, blah, blah." So I was super intentional about, like, "Okay, how can I expect this to go?" And I was happy with that.
That's cool. Um, there was another thing I was gonna say. Oh, about the learning piece. Did you like find any tricks around managing your energy? Like, oh, I have to do my deep learning at like this part of the day, or like, before I do this, that helped.
For sure, and which is funny now because I feel would say, like, optimal learning time is completely different than when
Mm.
it was prep, and so I felt the absolute best right when I would wake up. And so typically it was like between the hours of most days I would probably get up at like 5, I would say like 5:30, and I would literally just work or I would study from like 5:30 to like 9 or 10 or like whenever I had to go into school because that was kind of when I could best learn things. And
Mm.
will also say when it comes to learning, I'm a big advocate of like it's not about how many times you see something, it's about how many times you can recall
Mm.
something, and so that was definitely something I or it's a trick I guess you could say that helped me through the prep was I am huge on just being able to like recall information, like watch a video, read something, whatever. At the end of it, you're reciting in your own words the main takeaways
Yeah.
from that. So that was something that really, really helped me. Just kind of actually be able to learn and paired with the early morning when my brain's
Yeah.
because I did like training. Typically during prep, I was training from like 5 to like 7 PM
Mm.
just because I needed food in me. Like, I wish I could have done the whole, like, get up, do fasted cardio, first meal in, and then you go train, but kinda given the circumstances, I was like, I really think it would be more beneficial to me, like, to sit down and learn,
Yeah.
do the work I need to do early in the day, then my brain is like
That's smart. Yeah.
mhm,
I remember in college learning that like you learn something or you internalize it so much better when you teach it to someone. Like there's seeing it, there's being able to say it, and then like
mhm,
being able to try to teach it. Like your
mhm,
brain forms certain
mhm,
connections, I guess.
yeah, mhm,
And so once I learned that, I would like pair up with someone. We try to like teach each
yeah,
other aspects, and it would help a lot. So yeah, that was the
big
trick we
time.
used.
Totally. And I will say too, something that did kind of backtracking again, but something else about the prep that really surprised me was the training side of
Mm,
things. Because I like, if I had to pinpoint one thing that it like is my why behind bodybuilding, it's the training.
yeah.
Like hands down, I love feeling strong. Like I love pushing to that intensity and like feeling of like having a pump, like, it's just it's awesome. And in prep, I quite literally don't think I, like, caught a pump for the last, like, 3 months of prep. I literally felt like I was just throwing my body into the training and, like,
Yeah.
moving and, like, that's so painful to me just because I'm such an optimizer and, like, I won't feel things where I need to feel them,
Yeah.
and, like, I won't push hard and, like, I was still training like, all out, like, as
Yeah.
hard as I possibly could, but just not being able to, like, get the pumps that I wanted
Yeah.
to was so painful,
Yeah.
and so, look after the show, I think that too, that was why I didn't really I'm super proud of the way I handled myself post-show, and, like, I don't really know what I was expecting, I just had heard so many horror stories,
Mm,
I guess you could say, like, the typical, like, "Oh my gosh, I gained 20 pounds in a week,"
yeah.
or like, some people go off the rails, or like some people, just have a really hard time mentally dealing with kind of gaining that weight back. And
Mm,
so I didn't really know how I was going to respond to things. Like I knew I was going to follow the plan to, to a T because that's kind of just how I am. But and I also was very mindful about like having a plan in place and being able to kind of just shift focus. I think everything with horrors and the way that that timeline felt was super nice for me to just seamlessly shift my attention elsewhere. But after the show, it was not hard to see those lines fade just because the training felt so
yeah.
good. I felt so strong. I was like, honestly, that counteracts any kind of like feelings of sadness with the weight gain.
That's good. Yeah.
And it's
I
getting
was
there.
gonna
So.
ask if you had any type of like post-show blues or especially with first prep, it can be
Mhm.
such a dramatic difference. Like you've never felt so purpose driven before, and then that purpose evaporates. So it can be hard making that transition mentally. Not just the weight gain, but just not having that specific goal you're working towards every day.
For sure. And I I definitely like have to refrain from looking at the pictures often, like just because I know that that will make me sad
Mm,
because I'm big on to just kind of being present and I think that it's one thing to kind of get lost in your brain thinking in the future, but it's another thing to get lost in your brain thinking about the past. And so I tried to like be appreciative of the prep. I love that that experience made me who I am now, but I also was like, okay, I can't reminisce on this and think about it every single day. Like I need to move on
okay.
kind of thing. So I really refrained from looking at the pictures every single day, which helps because now I look at them and I'm like, oh, that was so awesome. I
Yeah.
can't wait to do it So I was very intentional about kind of where I was putting my
That's
energy,
good.
and I tried not to kind of get lost in reminiscing over it too much. I was strictly just like, okay, look ahead, or like look where your feet are, kind of thing. Um, I will say, what else did I have something that's good? Not that. The
Post-show blues, losing your
mm,
purpose.
because the like kind of just the way I previously spoke about this, but the way everything fall with Forge and how, because me and Georgia kind of we got connected when I was like 2 months out from the show or
Okay.
so, and so with that, she I was going to join Forge as an assistant coach, but I was like, let's wait till the prep is done. I kind of have a lot on my plate right now, just with the current clients I have, with school, with prep. Like, I don't think I can take anything else on, and like, I would hate to bite off more than I could chew, kind of thing. And so I was like, for everyone's best interest, let's wait. And so then we had a nice plan in place to where essentially it was like I was going to compete, and then the weekend after, because I knew me and Dom kind of like talked about doing a national show after, but nationals was in fact during my finals week. So that was like
Very
immediately out of the
bad.
I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I guess we're just kind of dipping my toes in this time. That's okay.
Yeah,
Uh, so once we kind of configured that, then George and I were like, okay, after week after my show, I'll fly out. I'll come to Bend Leader. She had a couple girls competing in that show, and she was like, it'll be a great opportunity, like for us to meet, for you to meet some of the girls, and we can do some media stuff. And so, literally the weekend after my show, I packed up all of my food, everything I needed for reverse, and I flew out there and
cool.
met her, like met all the girls, and then pretty much right after that, like we announced my affiliation with Forged, and like I kind of started to build my roster ever since then, and it's been that growth has been incredible, but I do give just the timeline of things so much props because I feel like that really saved me from falling into the prep blues.
Yeah.
Just because it was very, okay, I'm just gonna switch focus
Yeah,
now and
that's
like
cool.
um um, I will say okay, well I remember what I was initially gonna say. I am someone who I love to do hard things and challenging things because it gives me so much purpose and confidence. And so I like this is so funny, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of wrote out a list of a handful of just challenging things that I was like, these are all very minute, or whether it's like bad habits or like I started being a lot more intentional about how I was using my time, and I purposely was trying to replace habits in a way that challenged me because I kind of needed to feel, you know how prep is, it's like it's so hard, but then when you do it, you actually show up, it feels so great and
Yeah.
it's so empowering. And so even I've kind of just been making small tweaks to kind of get that same feeling
Oh,
of
cool.
empowerment,
I really like that
which is
idea.
well, like, what's an example? For instance, a cold shower. I absolutely despise cold showers, and I would never do it kind of after like I'm very intentional about when I do it, but that is something I've started doing like on rest days. Is like I'm like, okay, 2 minutes, I'm going to go in this piping cold shower and I'm going to absolutely hate it, but I'm gonna really focus on my breathing and you can't do something for 2 minutes
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I've really been kind of doing things that challenge me in that way, which feels good. And then I'm like, oh yeah, like I did accomplish that. That was awesome.
That's awesome.
Um, or even like with I feel like in prep I got so bad at scrolling on my
Mm,
phone. And like I am not on I'm not someone who's on their phone 24/7. Like I don't really struggle with scrolling for 3 hours. Like it's just not the way I want to spend my time kind of thing. But in prep I definitely it became a habit, and I got kinda repulsed with myself because I was like, "Oh my god, why have I been 30 minutes have passed and I haven't moved, I'm still scrolling, like, this is not good." And so I probably a month ago, I was like, "Okay, I'm going to not use my phone the hour before I go to sleep and the first hour of waking." And I was like, "I'm gonna swap it either, like, reading or journaling,
nice.
and just kinda see how I like." 'Cause the phone started becoming very second nature to just
Reactive.
pick it up
Yeah.
and take it with me, or like, even if I was just going in a different room and I was like, oh my gosh, like, why have I attached this? So I started, like, incorporating that habit, and I love that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much of a difference it makes in, like, combating just the monkey noise
Yeah.
in your brain
I have a little
24.
trick for people
Mm,
who spend too much time on Instagram. I started doing this a few years ago, which is I log in once a day, other than answering messages from people. I log, and when I do log in to answer messages, I intentionally don't go to the main page or like
yeah.
my feed or anything. But other than that, I log in once a day. I look at the first 5 posts and
Mhm.
then I go through whatever stories I'm interested in, and then that's it. That's that's my Instagram
Yeah.
daily.
First 5 posts and whoever stories you want to see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not like going down, down, down. I'm just
Yeah.
seeing like
Okay.
whatever 5 first posts the
Mhm.
algorithm or my friends promotes up to me, and then I click through a few stories and then I'm done for the day. Like, because you get it like stories last a day, so you're not going to miss anything if that's what you're worried about. And like the first 5 posts, you're probably going to see the majority of whatever you were looking for. So,
Yeah.
um,
Mm,
it's worked pretty well for me, and like I don't spend much time on the app now.
yeah. Instagram is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Even on prep, like, I had to go and turn off the to tell it to stop showing me food
Oh
stuff.
yeah. I only learned about that recently. I definitely didn't, and it was just all.
But in the beginning, it wasn't too bad, and then the deeper I got into it, the more food the one day my entire explore page was food,
It
and I
changes
was
so
like,
quickly.
"This is outlandish." Yeah. Oh my gosh, I had to immediately,
Yeah,
towards the end, I had to shut it off
yeah.
because
I
I
forgot
could
about
not
that. That's really funny.
be consuming that content.
Um, Talk a little bit about show day. Like, what was the experience like for you? You talked about the nerves, but other than that, like, what were some of the emotions?
Mhm.
And like, run us through kind of how it happened.
Yeah, and I I will say I have, like, a very strange family dynamic, I guess you could say, and so neither my parents play like this overarching role in my life. But I have the most amazing like support system of friends. And so even um I currently live in Indiana, and so I have like my school related friends and like my gym people, but no one who I was, like, quite literally close enough to be like, "Hey, I have a competition in 3 days. Can you help me shave my whole entire body?" kind of thing, and so, my best friend from Michigan drove down, like, the the show's on Saturday, she drove down to me in Indiana on Wednesday. She, like, stayed the night with me. Next day, literally helped me do the whole body shave, like, helps me pack my car, get everything all lined up, drove me back to Michigan for the show. And like bless her heart, she was my show mom the whole weekend.
That's awesome.
And that helped so much with my nerves. Just like being around someone that I like love and trust and like can confide in and like, tell all my feelings to. Um and so she was kind of my rock throughout the whole thing. And then getting honestly I am like an avid preparer.
Mm,
And so I feel like I tried to mitigate as much stress as possible for the show day by doing things like, like shaving 3 days before the show, like following all the instructions I need to get the best tan, to get the best makeup, to get the best hair, like,
yeah.
got to the hotel, like, we got there Thursday night and the show was Saturday. So, like, I
Oh,
gave myself adequate amount of time to, like, decompress and, like, settle in and, like, I brought some, like, Legos, like, I'm huge on doing, like, mindful, like, books, like, to just kinda occupy myself and, like, be calm and stuff, and so, like, the lead up to the show, everything was completely seamless, and, like, my body responded amazing. There was kinda nothing that was concerning, and it was nice too because Dom wasn't able to make it to the show, but Mike was there. He had a couple girls in the show, and so kinda just having someone very, very close with down there, ease a lot of my nerves in case anything were to go wrong.
Cool.
And I knew a ton of people in the show. And like having all of my friends out there with me as well felt so awesome. And so then the actual show day it was intense. I mean, I woke up at like 3:30 AM. I think I got my makeup done at like 5, or it was like 4:45 or something. It was really, uh, like I said, I woke up so much adrenaline coursing through my veins. Was not anticipating that. Was so, so shaky. But like hair and makeup went great. I balled out for my suit, which is so funny because I'm like a pretty frugal person. Like I just hate to spend money, especially on myself. But I was like, you know what? First show, I don't want to have a single worry in the world. Like I'm just going to get the best suit possible from a trusted company, which I know, like, if there's anything goes wrong with it, I can send it back or get it, whatever. So absolutely balled. I spent like $900 on
Wow.
this food. You know, it was like, it's okay. But it was perfect. It was so perfect. Um, and yeah, everything was like very, very seamless. Honestly, there was no kind of bumps in the road or anything. And then when I actually got to the venue, I knew of a ton of people who were and the show ended up being, because Michigan bodybuilding is typically pretty small, but the show was, I think they said there was almost like 300
Wow.
competitors, including the crossovers.
Crazy.
Um, so it was ended up being like had an awesome turnout. It was the last Michigan show of the year.
Okay.
Um, and then kinda went out there, did my thing. I was relentless with the posing the entire prep,
Yeah.
and so me and Grass-Fed were working together pretty much every week towards the month before the show. We started doing a meeting, like, multiple times a week, and he taught me everything I knew, completely transformed my posing. Like,
Awesome.
that was the awesome improvements throughout the prep. And then so I really had no stressors going into the actual show day. I just kind of had to go up and execute exactly how I had been preparing for the last like 6 months. And I was super happy with like my actual execution up there. I got really good feedback from the judges. They pretty much were just like, keep doing exactly what you're doing. They were like, you're gonna do exceptional at a national show with like a little bit more size and density. And, growing was like my favorite part of this whole thing. So I was like, okay, heard 100%. And so, yeah, that's my show day recap.
What did it feel like when they called your number or your name?
It was I will say it was a little bit overwhelming just in the finals when prejudging was awesome. Like going out there and like I did feel so confident and just excited and like happy. I think in the pictures I literally have the biggest smile you've like ever seen on my face. I did genuinely enjoy going out there and like doing my routine and everything. The finals was a little bit just kinda chaotic, because it's like there also wasn't a ton of girls in the classes I was competing in, so a lot of times it was like I was walking out there, then I was walking back, then I was immediately walking back out there, and so
Yeah.
that was definitely a little confusing. Like, I don't know if that was my lack of experience or kind of their, uh, like, lack of explanation kind
Yeah.
of behind me, but ask the right
It can just be
questions.
crazy when you're in multiple classes, especially at an amateur show.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was a little crazy and overwhelming just because I kinda was like, "Oh," like, I would just yeah, being pulled all over the place, but, it felt so good. Kinda hearing my number called and getting up there and just being able to and, like, Marissa Moraz, I'm not sure if you are familiar with her, she
No.
does body work in Michigan, but
Okay, cool.
she had been doing my body work for the last, like, year or so, and
Oh,
she was
cool.
actually the like, handing out the
Oh,
awards, and
awesome.
so it's funny just kinda, like, knowing her and, like,
Yeah,
the
that's nice.
photographer, Ryan Berry, I'm, like, really good friends with him, and so
Cool.
it was just awesome, like, knowing everyone I was working it to, I was super close with, but it just, like, made it kinda that much more special.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what are some like, one thing I appreciate about your content is you post a lot about, like, mindset shifts and mental lessons learned. What are just a couple that really stood out to you over the course of prep or afterwards? Things you learned about yourself?
For sure. And I feel like, people always say, because I am super intentional about mindset, and I got super into do you know Tony Robinson?
Yeah.
I found him when I was like 15,
Oh,
15
wow.
years old, was small and just kind of needed like some direction and guidance. And
Mm,
so I am so huge on it, listening to podcasts and like reframing negativity, like choosing optimism, like all of those things. And so I have like up until the prep, I had cultivated a very like positive mindset about things, and like I can handle adversity very well. Um, and but with prep, it was, people always say like, oh, it's mind over matter, mind over matter, blah blah blah. And it was so crazy to me because I don't think I fully understood that statement up until that point
mm,
in prep. When it's like some days I remember I would wake up and I would feel awful. Like, my body would feel like literal sandbags. I was so tired, like, I was so hungry, but I showed up anyway, and it's like I did not miss a cardio session. I did not miss a training session because I was choosing this, and so I think that that was the first time in my life where like you always say, like, "Oh, you can do anything you wanna do in life, like, you can go any places," but until you actually kind of put yourself in those very, very challenging positions and get through them, you don't understand the magnitude of that statement where it's like, no, you actually can do anything
yeah.
that you like set your mind to and like that you choose
Yeah.
to embody. And so I would say that was kind of a really big one for me. And something I always say is like if you want to fly, let go of everything that holds you down,
Mm,
kind of thing. I feel like in prep, I was very forced to be extremely meticulous with like how I was using my energy and like who I was talking to and like what I was replying in and like um if there was any kind of stressor in my life, it was very easy for me to be like, okay, goodbye,
sure.
kind of thing. Like it was so easy for me to just go in the other direction because I was like, my time is precious, my energy is precious right now. Like I'm not gonna give that up
Yeah.
to anyone, anything that tries to take it from me.
Mm,
And so I think that was like super, super powerful and something that I didn't really understand the magnitude of until I went through that prep and I was like, okay, I need to be very precise with where I'm putting the energy and
yeah. I like that a lot. That's great. That's a great way to end. Thank you so much for coming on, Charlie.
yeah,
Really appreciate it.
yes, okay.
If folks want to follow you, is Instagram the best place?
Yes, my Instagram is just Charlie May underscore. Yeah. And
Cool.
if you're interested in coaching, go ahead and fill out the link in my bio or shoot me a message.
Awesome. I'll have a link to that in the notes. Thanks, Charlie.
Sounds good. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you, Scott.